This is Tokyo Real. I'm Ian Simpson, and with me on the show today I have professional big wave surfer Andrew Cotton. Andrew, welcome to Tokyo Real.
Thanks for having me.
I hear you're back in the UK at the moment. How's sunny England?
Yeah, it's typical summer. Nice bit of drizzle. Surf's pretty small, so yeah, it's great to be back.
Yeah, I don't miss it being out here in Japan. Actually, it's pretty nice climate out here. But then again, you get around a lot anyway, so you must get some good weather.
Yeah. Although it's never been the weather that's important to me. Really, it's usually the waves. If there's good waves, I'm happy.
Yeah, for sure. And I believe at the moment there's some big news around. You have a new movie coming out. Let's kick off with that. Called, is it Beneath the Surface?
Yeah, I've got a new as well. Yeah, so like a 30-minute documentary called Beneath the Surface. It's about I suppose it's like a big wave surf adventure. I suppose.
Right.
It goes back. It's been a project which has been about 4 years in the making.
Okay.
Myself and the three or four friends have been like looking for this wave. Not looking for this wave, like trying to surf this wave, this big wave spot in Ireland. And we've been out there a few times over the past 4 years. And this winter we decided to dedicate the whole winter to try and score it. And It's a pretty magical place. It's really isolated, middle of nowhere. It's pretty dangerous. And it's just a story about that. My friend's got a boat, and we sailed the boat from where we live in Devon to the west coast of Ireland, and then spent a lot of time hanging around the sea trying to score this wave. So.
And did you score it big?
We did get it pretty big.
Yeah.
Like, this place gets massive. The first time we actually got there, the first time I saw it was about 2013, and that day was so big that I didn't even want to get away.
Right.
So it needed a bit more thought about just going out there pretty gun ho and getting yourself in amongst it. So we didn't score it as big as we've seen it, but we did. We got it up to like 30 feet maybe. One of the days was 30 feet.
Yeah. That's big. Is that a Red Bull sponsored movie?
It's Red Bull Media House. It's a few of my friends are in it with me, and a guy called Lyndon Wake, who was one of the first guys to go out there with me, and a young lad called Taz Knight, who's also from Devon.
I think I used to surf with his father.
Matt.
Matt Knight?
Yeah.
No, another Knight.
Oh, right. So yes, it's his dad's boat. So it's Taz's dad's boat that we used, and his dad's a really accomplished sailor and surfer, and he knows his stuff. And it's an interesting story, and it's edited by or filmed by the guy that I've done a lot of my stuff with over the past 3 or 4 years. A good friend, Mikey Corker.
Right.
So we sort of came up with the idea together, and it's interesting. It gets released on Red Bull TV on the 28th of July.
28th of July, so our viewers can find it there and watch it on it. Oh, great! We'll be looking forward to that.
Yeah,
it's like an endless summer of big wave surfing or something.
Endless freezing, endless winter.
Yeah.
But it's one of them. It's the first time, because of the last 3 or 4 years, I suppose, I spent a lot more time in Portugal. So it was good to spend a lot more time in Ireland this winter. It's one of my favourite places in the world. It's so beautiful, and it is cold, but it has some of the best waves in the world.
I was going to ask you about that. What is the magic of Ireland then? Because you think of all these big wave locations around the world that are famous, that we all know about, but Ireland, what is it with Ireland?
I think it's just you just have to be there. It's not like one of these places like Nazare and other places in Europe and definitely more like in America and Hawaii, you can see like the swells and the winds and that generally seem to be a bit more stable. Whereas like when the big swells hit Ireland, you never know what's going to happen. You know, the winds vary, like it's almost impossible to predict the wind directions and things like that until it happens.
Right.
Which makes it really hard for like people to fly over and catch swells. And I've fallen, victim to it many a time where I go to Ireland for a swell, you get there when it's supposed to be good and it's terrible, and then you go home and then the day later is the day of days. And it's sort of the place that you just have to hang out there. And to get the magic days, which the locals obviously do, and they score some amazing waves, but to get those magic days, you have to sit through a lot of bad days as well. Yeah. So it's a pretty testing place, you know.
But you got a base out there, have you?
I usually when I first started getting into big wave surfing, we used to rent a few guys from where I live. We used to rent a house out there and keep all our stuff and spend 2 or 3 months a year out there.
Right.
And that's it is tough, but it's the way it's how you get the best waves.
Yeah, but like you say, it must be cold, yeah. Because I know you. When I've spoken to you before, you've been going out there in the winter and stuff, And
well,
it must be freezing.
It does get cold. I think it's sometimes the air temperature that can be the worst. But it's not. Wetsuits and stuff are so good now, Like it's if you're prepared and you're organised, of course, your surfs are shorter, or it's definitely not like spending 3 months in Indo, but with the cold and the harsh conditions, you have your advantages, which is there's less people. There's something magical about it, and it's one of the places I always want to go back to for sure.
That's right. And I've been watching some YouTube videos on Ireland and stuff recently, and I've been surprised myself. I mean, I'm from the UK, of course, but I've been surprised myself how good some of the waves were, and some of the big sessions that were going on out there. I didn't realise.
It's like insane. Like some of the guys there now, and some of them are obviously expats from Australia, South Africa, America, England, and there's a whole scene, like a big wave scene, and the guys are pushing boundaries and they're charging.
That's what I thought. Yeah,
and as well as the local crew of surfers there as well, and there is a lot of talent that's coming out of Ireland. Like some of the young kids now, they're so good at riding barrels, and they can also do turns and huge airs, and and then there are because there are a big variety of waves, not only big waves but slabs and points and a couple beaches, but there's a good variety of waves, which is going to breed a good surfer.
Can't you convince your wife to move out there and live there?
I thought about it. It's funny actually. It's one of the although I love it. It's one of the places that she used to come out when we were first together. She used to come out and spend a few weekends, but since it's one of the places that she doesn't really tend to spend much time. I think she'd rather go to Portugal.
Yeah, I'm sure. So I guess it depends on the size, but is it mainly paddling or towing the stuff that you do?
Yeah, it depends. Yeah, exactly. It depends. I spend a lot of time in Bundoran, which is a small town on the west coast, in the northwest coast, and there's a lot of good points there and slabs. So it's obviously all paddle surfing. I'm talking like good waves from 2 to 8 feet.
Yeah.
So but they're some of the most fun waves that you can think of. I can think of, probably in Europe, But also, there's a lot of big wave spots, which like some of the guys paddle more up to like 15 feet, which is like a super heavy, slabby wave, which that takes some commitment and skill. It's like a really hard wave to paddle. That's one of the ways that I like sort of prefer to tow. But I like to tow it when it's like really big, like 20 foot plus or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, like it's never been. You never rule it out. Like, I'll do whatever,
whatever it needs. Yeah, at the time.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
We'll look forward to the movie, and I'll put the links up on Tokyo Reel for that, so people can check it out, and that would be good.
I think we've got a trailer. The trailer's coming out next week. So.
All right. Yeah, send me the link. I'll get it put up. Okay, I'll help you promote it. Now, one of the things that sort of brought you into the public eye more than anything was the Guinness Book of Records biggest wave ever ridden with Garrett Macnamara in Nazare, yeah? So I mean, I know our viewers would love to hear that story. Can you sort of give us the Reader's Digest version of that?
Reader's Digest. I think it's funny because it's not actually like there's two styles, I suppose.
Right.
I towed Garrett into the world record, the biggest wave ever surfed, at 78 feet in 2012, maybe. I think it's 2012.
Okay.
And that's still the current record.
Right.
And then he repaid the favour a couple of years later in 2014 and towed me into one of the biggest waves that I've ever seen or surfed. It's definitely probably the biggest surf that I've ever been out in.
Right. Well, I heard it was your wave was one of the top 5 biggest waves ever ridden. So,
yeah, but it never actually officially got measured. It's because I never actually made it to the bottom.
Because halfway down, or 3/4 of the way down, you go down and get swallowed up, and so is that why that they never measured it?
Well, I don't know really, and then at the end of the day, I think it was more the media caught hold of it, and the visuals were great, and that's what at the end of the day sells a story, isn't it? It had a great visual. The tagline was like at that point in time, like I wasn't a professional surfer. I just lost my sponsors about a year before. I was plumbing and lifeguarding, and so the headlines are like plumber surfs biggest wave ever, like which is like the classic sort of that's the classic British media for you.
Yeah, that's a good headline. It's going to sell papers.
Yeah, exactly. I had like the great picture. So, I mean that's fantastic. I mean, it's a great video. It's a massive wave. What is it about Nazare? It's just that is like the videos that I watch. They say there's nothing else like it. The wave is so unpredictable. It's so different from any other wave. Is that right? Yes. It's obviously a unique. It's a unique beach, and that it's all plays down to the the underwater topography, I suppose, and it has this huge canyon, which is the figures that I'm about to give. I'm not 100% sure. It's like I think it might be 1,000 meters deep.
Yeah, that's what I saw yesterday when I was doing the research.
Yeah, I think so. So this canyon, which is 1,000 meters deep, which is deep, really deep, comes straight into the beach, and the way it's angled, it sort of funnels in, and it ends just at the near the lighthouse there at Nazare. And when you have the perfect swell direction, you have the swell travels a lot faster in the deeper water. So you have swells that travel really fast in the canyon, and then they refract out the canyon as the canyon just comes to an abrupt stop. They refract out, and they meet the slower moving swells, which are coming just down the beach. So you have these freak wedges, which will turn like 10 to 15 foot wave into a 60 foot wave.
Right. Yeah.
So it's I suppose the other thing you could liken it to is like someone like Newport Wedge, like on steroids, like where you get these sort of refractions and depth changes. It just,
So when you're out there, is it difficult to know which wave to go for?
Oh yeah, it's 100%. It's a lottery, but the more you surf it, the more you understand that. And sometimes it's not the ones that break further out. You're looking for like the inside ones that double up, and But we're still, it's only we've been surfing it big now. Like the local bodyboarders and the local crew have been surfing it obviously for years, but it was more like a small wave spot. So they would go there when everywhere else was flat. Nazare would always be like 3 feet, 4 feet, and it actually breaks really good all the way up. Like, so, it's a fun wave to surf at 4 feet.
Yeah.
But it just gets supersized, very easily.
And how many times in a year would it get supersized? Depends on the storms, I guess. But
pardon?
Of course, it depends how many storms come through. But on average, how many times?
It's 20 feet a lot.
Yeah.
Which is probably like the most consistent big wave spot in Europe. Maybe the world. I don't know. Like, I don't know how, but it's 20 feet a lot.
Right.
And then it has the potential to get 100 feet, maybe. Who knows, more? I don't know. The thing is that some of those days where I've seen, and it's just, I don't even know how you'd measure those waves. Like some of there's so much water moving. It's going so fast. It's so like sometimes it doesn't seem like there's even a bottom to the wave. Like there's just these giant mountains rolling to the beach.
I think it must be really difficult, even for the WSL guys or whoever does it, like to measure the wave. I mean.
And that's definitely a job that I'm glad I don't have to do. The surfing bit's easy, like being a judge and measuring stuff like that, and deciding where the bottom of a wave is, or like it's a pretty tough, thankless task, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But luckily.
So would you say that sort of wave was a turning point in your career?
Oh, without doubt, yeah. It was funny, Garrett always said to me, it's a funny thing about big wave surfing, and especially toe surfing. It's not like, it's quite a team sport, and it's you got to be in it for each other. I'm happy to tow Garrett into the biggest wave ever, but then also vice versa, and he's happy to tow me into the biggest wave that, so there's no competition between us, even though we both obviously want it. Who knows? Mother Nature sort of makes those decisions when you're in the sea and you're surfing.
Well, I was just going to move into that actually, because I was going to say that surfing is regarded as an individual sport, but actually, big wave surfing is actually a team game, isn't it? It's, as you just said.
Without doubt.
So how many people would you normally have in your crew working together? I
don't think we have like a crew. Like, it depends. When it's to say it's like giant, and we work in like maybe there's 3 of us that would work together if we're toe surfing, But like if anyone got into trouble or there was something else went down, it's like a brotherhood or whatever you want to call it. At the end of the day, we're all in it together. Like we're all everyone there wants the same thing. We're all passionate about surfing. We're all passionate about big waves. We all respect the ocean. So we're all in it together. It's a big. Everyone's a team.
Yeah.
So I don't think you sort of say, oh yeah, well my team's just this and this, or these people, although they're the guys that I'd maybe surf with more or train with more, but at the end of the day, when it's giant, we're in it together, And
of course, you're looking out for each other, and
definitely, and that's very much so. Like even we're specifically talking about toe surfing then, but even when you're paddle surfing, we have like last year we had a few big wave paddle sessions there, which were like bordering on like 30, 40 foot paddle sessions, and you paddle for a bit and then you do safety for a bit, and I'll happily sit on the ski and keep an eye on people, make sure that they're all right, and because I know that they'll do that for me. So I think that's just a responsibility that we see, as
like a brotherhood, as you say.
What you do, it's just what
I always get that feeling with the big wave community that it really there's a lot of humility there. There's no big egos. People realize that you're pushing the limits and you've got to look after each other. So,
and I think everyone has a lot of respect. Obviously, one for each other, and two for the ocean. And you can't do that by yourself. You won't last. Your career won't last very long. If you're going to go, okay, it's just me. I don't need safety, or I don't need anyone to help me. I just don't think it's that. That's not the attitude to take.
No. So what would you normally? Would you have two people on a ski and then one person surfing and then change over? Is it normally 3-man team or?
Yeah. So what we do, the system that we worked out to be the safest when it's really, really big, and with tow surfing, is we'd have obviously the surfer and the towing jet ski, and then we'd have the one safety ski, which is just one guy driving a ski, and the guy driving the safety ski generally hangs in a bit.
Right.
So, because sometimes if I was to tow Garrett into a wave, it might be a peak. I might think he goes left, so if I follow the left. But if he goes right, it's for the guy on the safety ski to go, well, actually, I need to get in and collect, make sure someone's there to get him. Because the worst thing about Nazare is that there's no channels, all the waves are shifting, and the reality is that you can pull off the back of a wave and you could have another wave unload in front of you, and you just want to. Not that we're all prepared to take that and to take that that risk, and to have that happen, and which it has done numerous times. But you want to try and avoid that as much as possible.
Yeah,
because they're the ones they're the ones that that can hurt, that can take a lot of energy out of you, and that can sometimes it can mean the end of your session.
Yeah. So can you normally get picked up? So say you go down, you wipe out. Do you normally get picked up before the second wave hits you?
That's what we aim to do.
Yeah.
That's what we aim to do, and that does take a bit of teamwork and knowledge and communication. We all have the ski drivers have radios. We generally have a spotter on the cliff with also the same radio, so we can communicate between us. Guy on the cliff.
You're not wired up though, are you?
The surfer's not, no. So it's just the surfer's the only one with that radio.
Yeah,
so
of course,
it's the ski, both the skis, and we have someone on the cliff that can tell us. Sometimes not only just if it was in an emergency situation where we lose a surfer or a surfer goes down, but also where the best waves are. You can get sort of lost on the beach and not really knowing where's best to surf.
Right. Yeah. So let me talk a little bit about the logistics of it. So you go to various places, Nazare Island and various other places. So there's a lot. You got jet skis involved. You got all the towing equipment. You got the boards. Logistically, when you get a call and someone said there's a swell coming, you need to be in Ireland. You need to be in Nazare. How does it work then? How logistically, how do you get all that stuff there, or is it already there, or how does it work?
Yeah, it's usually all that stuff is there. Those jet skis or whatever, they stay there. And
who owns those? Are they rental? Are they crews, professional crews there who you? It's. I don't really know. But you rock up there and they're there. So
no, it's not in the past, I've in Ireland, a few of you chip in for a ski or something like that.
Yeah.
in Portugal, sometimes you get like the skis are sponsored by businesses or companies, or in the beginning with Nazare, it was like a project, like so that the project owned the skis, and and I was lucky enough to have use of the skis. Now I'm really fortunate with Red Bull. They have equipment in Ireland which I can use. But also, it's the same. Big wave surfing is a small community, and you get to know everyone. And so generally, wherever you go, if you help people out, they're going to help you out.
Right.
So like if someone wants to come to Ireland and wants to use a ski, and I have one there, and I'm not going to be there, or they want to tow, or whatever. Like if you help them out, then maybe if I'm in France or Spain or Portugal, then they're gonna, help me out. There's if you really want to do something or serve somewhere, there's usually a way around it, and you can make it happen.
Right. Yeah, I'm getting an image of how it's working now. I was wondering if it was really sort of all logistically planned out and everything. It's a bit more of a community then, where you just you make it work.
I think it very much is like a community, and so like especially when the big swells happen, where everyone's messaging each other or whoever, where you're going to go, what you're going to do, like, because you don't want to go somewhere and be by yourself. You need, you want other people there, or you want, the right stuff there, or right, and so yeah, I think. It usually works out. There's usually someone to surf with, or like a ski to use, or there's someone to do safety or something like that.
Do you normally surf with the same guys? Because you talk about the trust that you have to have in each other. You're looking after each other's lives, yeah. So do you normally try and work with the same guys, or does it vary?
Yeah, like I think. Yeah, you have different, guys that you do tend to work with more, but at the same time, like I respect and trust that like everyone who puts themselves in. There's not many people like it's not. I'm not going to work with that guy, or you just if they're committed 100% and they're usually there, they're usually they're good at what they do. Like. You have to
trust each other. You get to know each other.
Trust everyone. And obviously I like to work with. In Ireland, I generally work with or surf with a guy from Devon called Lyndon, and Nazare. It's been more Garrett and Hugo, but like it doesn't. We all swap round, and I might do safety for someone else, or. So
okay, all right, good. And you mentioned Red Bull. Let's talk a little bit about Red Bull, because they're into various extreme sports, always have been, yeah. But now they seem to be getting more and more into big wave surfing, yeah. And what's your sort of connection with them? How much do they support you?
Well, it's the funny thing is that Red Bull supported me for a long time actually, but I've never been an athlete, and they probably about 6 years ago, they started lending me the ski, which I kept in Ireland. So like they were supporting me with the use of a ski, which was great, because at that time it was something that I couldn't afford. And I already part owned a ski in Ireland anyway, so we had like 2 skis, and which was really really useful. And then. Yeah, somehow, like about 2 years ago, they offered to sign me as an athlete, which is the next step up. It's one of the dream sponsors. That they're
for sure. Yeah. I was looking at the list of. I picked up the Red Bull page yesterday and looked at the list of athletes who they sponsor. Yeah, so.
And they support you, and not only do they, help support ideas and projects, but they also support you in your training. Like last year, they put me on some amazing breathing courses and first aid courses. They really sort of invest in into their athletes, which is something which is great. There's not many brands that do that.
No.
So that's invaluable. When going on courses with some of my heroes, some of the best, who I see as the best big wave surfers in the world, and having that opportunity to go and train with them and see how they do things, it's like, it's a real dream come true.
Yeah, and actually that moves in nicely, because I was going to talk about training next. The components of fitness required for big wave surfing and training and cross training. What kind of training do you do for big wave surfing? You talked about the breathing courses. That's very interesting to me, because you're going to get hold downs. Yeah, you're probably going to get a lot of hold downs. So what specific training can you do to improve your breath holding?
I think obviously a lot of the breath holding things, it's understanding. It's like freedive and understanding the body and how long you can hold your breath. Obviously, it is hard to reenact, because when you go into like a freediving situation, you have your breathe up, so you get to calm, and then obviously in a wipeout situation, it's like nothing like that.
Mayhem.
Yeah,
black and mayhem.
But I think it gives you understanding of the body and what's going on, and I think that was like a really important thing. Breathing efficiently is something that a lot of people don't do, and understanding the benefits of breathing efficiently. Whereas you're not when I say efficiently, like you're using your actual belly, you're breathing, like the breathing techniques that I've started using, and I use this, and this is something that I learned from the freediving courses and the breath holding courses, is and I use it now in my surfing before, during, and after like a big wave session. Is like you breathe in, in for 3 seconds, the belly, inflating your belly, and breathing and exhaling out for 10 seconds. And and doing things like that is like you're calming, you're slowing your heart rate down, you're oxygenating your blood, you're calming yourself. It helps.
Like centering yourself, sort of.
Yeah. And so not only are you preparing your body, but you're preparing your mind, and helps you focus, and it helps the nerves, and and I find myself doing that sort of breathing now, like not just surfing, but like if I had like a scary phone call I had to make, or if I'm not feeling 100% comfortable, it's like almost like a good way to breathe, which helps me sort of focus and be in that moment.
I got you into Wim Hof. Have you been there?
Yeah, no, and it's funny actually. Since you mentioned that to me, quite a while ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then he's actually
he's been working with Len Hamilton and Kelly Slater and people.
And I saw the video of Kelly Slater at one of his things, and I think Wim Hof just did a course with the Red Bull high performance team as well in California. I read somewhere as well.
Right.
But it was I was watching the WSL webcast of the Fiji event.
Right.
Last month, and they were saying on that Kelly Slater was using the breathing techniques in his heat.
Okay. Right.
Which is interesting, it is like. It's a big part of sport, I suppose, and preparation and your mind as well.
Yeah, I think we're going in that direction where in the past we've always separated the mental from the physical, but actually the two things go together, don't they? And and we're beginning to understand how that works now. And I was going to ask you about that. I mean, how much of what you do, of course, is very physical, but how much of it is mental versus physical? When you're out there and it's 30, 40 feet plus, how much is mental, how much is physical? Well,
obviously, like the physical side of things is that, we're not training or to an event like a marathon. where you taper your training up. You have a very strict routine because on a certain day you're going to run 26 miles.
Right.
Like we're not doing that. We're trying to like keep a steady base of fitness. So, like obviously, I try and keep my cardio up. I enjoy my cycling. I do a little bit of running. I do a bit of strength and conditioning, and I'd actually getting more into my yoga and a little bit of meditation. But I think at the end of the day, like it doesn't matter. You could be the fittest person in the world, like, but you're not going to be fitter than Mother Nature, and the ocean, and so then it boils down to like how much you want it, and that's your brain and how much you want it, and and how much you're prepared to push it, and being fit, it's going to help, but and that might being fit, it might help you more psychologically, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, and it definitely helps me. I think if I'm feeling really physically fit, then I'm prepared to push it more, But at the end of the day, it really boils down to like, do you really want it, And there's some people that think they want it, and then when they get the opportunity, then they don't want it, and it,
But do you get days like that as well? I mean, are you always on it, like I want it, or do you get days when you think I'm not really up for it today? Does that happen or not?
Yeah, oh for sure, yeah. And I always listen to that, and it's knowing like you got to, like we're all risk takers, but it's knowing when to take that risk,
right?
And because it is a risk, and it's knowing when to push it, like there's no point in hurting yourself on like a mediocre day when around the corner could be the biggest day in the world, or the biggest day ever, or I don't know, like. So I definitely choose my moments when to push the button, when to go into like beast mode, or like like right, okay,
yeah.
And then once that switch is flicked, like. There's no getting back. Like I'm like, that's it. And I'm going.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna like. There's no hesitation. I'm like, and I'll do it until I don't make it, or until I do make. If I'm putting it into barrels, I'm gonna ride it until the end.
Yeah, I think. Positivity has got to be very important for you. Yeah. I mean, having that positive attitude, because. I mean, even this year, there's been a lot of injuries. Yeah, I mean, only the other week was it? Aaron Gold took a big wipeout in Tahiti. This week, Matahi Drole went down, took a beating at Chopu, I think.
Yeah.
And then you had the two in pipeline the end of last year, Owen Wright and Beeb Durbridge. Both out of the game now at the moment.
Yeah, and then Mark Matthews, Jules put his shoulder out at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, and Garrett, your partner, he had a horrific,
broke his arm.
Horrific injury. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's. I think it's like we're all, everyone's pushing it, and of course there's going to be injuries. Like we're at a point now where. We have some really amazing bits of safety kit,
right?
With the inflatable vests and the inflatable wetsuits that are coming out, and we're working now. Also, like there's a lot of these big swells. There's designated safety teams. People that so you are pushing it, but also like you can't. If you get hit by a lip and it rips your shoulder out, it's gonna that can happen. That's and I found that and I learned this pretty quick. Like I actually learned it from Garrett. It's about I used to when I first started surfing with Garrett, I'd be like gun ho, every wave, and one time the surf was pumping. It was like very early days at Nazare, and there was no one out. It was just me and him, and it was like bordering on like 30 to 50 feet, like glass, like dream conditions. And and I went and went and went, and then I actually fell, really hurt myself, and then Garrett was taking it really slow, you know, like, and then as I hurt myself, and then I didn't want a bar of it anymore, and I said, okay, I'll just drive the ski, and then the waves started turning on, you know, like, and then that's when Garrett flicked his switch, you know, like that's when he was like, you know, and so it is timing, and sometimes you can have that down, and sometimes guys have. I think that's maybe like whether you're in tune with the ocean or in tune with something, or you know, some days you have it and some days you don't, you know, like, but knowing when to turn that on and to peak at the right time, you know, like, because we're not competitive surfing in a way, but we're, you know, it's knowing when to peak, isn't it? Which is what competitive surfing is, you know. Like
you've got to peak for one wave, haven't you? One wave at a time, basically. You know?
Well, yeah, but also you got to peak through the swell. So you want to be peaking as the swell's peaking, as the waves are the best, or you know, like there's no good peaking as the swell's dropping because you're not going to get the wave of the day when the swell's dropping, or there's no good at peaking in the morning when the swell's going to peak in the afternoon, you know, like, or you know, like, because especially like with all these swells, you always get like a moment where it's the best, you know, throughout the whole day. Like even if it generally like the forecast is 20 foot, whatever seconds, and light winds all day, there'll be a moment in that day when the waves are best.
Right.
And you want to try and you want to in your head you want to know that when that moment is, and you want to peak with that moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm getting very. I've always been very interested in high performance and the components required for high performance, whether it be in business, sport, or life. And the more I look at it, the more I think it becomes mental than physical. Of course, the physical is more, but mental in particular, I think is really important. And getting in that you know, IPS, that ideal performance state at the right time is the key point, isn't it? You know. And
yeah.
It comes with experience, with studying everything about what you do, but it's really important to nail it. And people like Garrett probably been just doing it all his life. It's got it down pat, you know.
Yeah, so, yeah, and I, you know, I was, you know, sort of learning a lot, and you know, I went through last year, maybe it was the year before that, I felt really sort of. Like my sessions I was only just doing enough, you know, like you get to a point where like I was so concerned about either injuring myself or you know, like I'd surf to a point where I think, okay, yeah, I've done enough, you know, like, and then I'd never push it any further. So like I came away this year thinking, okay, well then, you know, I don't just want to be that guy that just does enough, you know, I want to be the guy to push it to the, you know, to my own next level, or to do, and sometimes, you know, it takes different things to motivate you, you know, to do that. And then like I suppose like before I'd push it to the next level because I had nothing to lose, you know, like I didn't have any sponsors, and you know, like I was really hungry, and maybe when you get a sponsor or you get a bit of security, you don't try and maybe you plateau a little bit,
right? Yeah.
And then I felt that this year I felt I had more hunger, you know, I wanted to push it, you know, harder, and you know, I was wanting to stay in to get that next wave, or you know, I wasn't just happy with just, you know, just enough, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Actually, this year I went out to Hawaii to watch the Eddy and the big wave contest. I missed it by a week. I came back, and then a week later it happened, and. So, but I was there, but I was a week early. But yeah, I mean, it was amazing, wasn't it? I mean, from your point of view, have you got any sort of like goals or dreams to surf in the Eddy, or on the big wave tour? You know?
Yeah, yeah. Of course, like representing your country and doing something you love, you know, on the big stage is, you know, of course, it's a dream, you know, and I think it's really important as well because it's pushing yourself, you know, like you have to, it's something to aim for, you know, and to get onto like the Big Wave World Tour or represent the country in a big wave competition. yeah, it's definitely on the list of like things that I want to do. But it's I just don't want to be there to make the numbers up. I want to do well.
Yeah, you want to be charging and be one of the
yeah,
guys. Yeah,
yeah,
so,
and then sometimes like like you're thinking like, okay, well, that's timing as well. Like probably like a couple of years ago, I wouldn't have been even ready for it. Or last year I paddled a lot more, and I got a few different new big wave paddle boards, and just to get your head around surfing those big boards and those big waves and that, it takes a lot. It's not something you learn overnight. And I'm by no means an expert at big wave paddle surfing. But it's something that I want to get good at, and if that opportunity does come at any point, then I want to be there, and I don't want to just be making up numbers. I want to be like making heats, and definitely flying the flag for UK.
And I think it does. I mean, it does take a long time. I mean, a lot of the guys that are still doing really well in those contests are quite older guys, aren't they? I mean, Ross Clark Jones is nearly 50. Peter Mel is nearly 50. So it's a thing. If you keep your fitness up, you can still keep doing it. I mean, Clyde Ike was 66, I think. But he was, he was still charging. It was massive that day. I mean, I was thinking, how is he surviving? I don't know, but
like Twiggy just won the big wave event in Escondido.
That's right.
I think he's 44. Right. I think
so. A lot of guys in their 40s really charging hard.
Yeah, but but maybe he's not 44. Maybe I've got that wrong. But anyway, he's not like in his 20s. But I think big wave surfing, it is like we say, it's about knowledge of the ocean, and obviously there has to be element of physical fitness, but also it's that knowledge and that what you got in there, which can set you apart, and help you choose the right waves or understand what's going to So that's interesting. It is interesting, and it's like it's kind of cool to think. Hopefully I've still got another 10 years in my career. Because I'm 36 now. Yeah. And so 36, and really I've only just started going professional, if you want to call it professional. Although I've always treated my surfing as a profession.
Your attitude is professional, but now you're actually
work-wise professional. You always have to you always have to try and treat it, even when it's not. Even if you want it to be a job, you have to treat it like that. Even if it's so far away from being a reality, you always treat it as okay, right? Yeah, I want to be this.
Well, we talked about the older guys. What about the younger guys? I mean, this year, John Florence won the Eddie, and I watched him today in J-Bay. He's runner-up there. So, I mean, a kid like him, I mean, he's a fantastic barrel rider. He can go to the rail. He can go to the air. He can ride monster waves. I mean, who else do you see as the rising stars of big wave surfing?
Oh, there's so many. There's there are so many guys in their 20s that can do it all, and that's that is just that's insane, they can bust massive airs and surf 2-foot slop, but they can also slide in under the lip at 30-foot jaws and get power out of their brains, And I think a lot of the Maui guys are leading that sort of style where they, it doesn't matter what the waves are like, they're killing it, whether it's 2-foot or 30-foot, they're next level, which is amazing, and that is the future, that is the future of surfing, and that is always a dream, my dream as a kid was always to be able to be a good small wave surfer, or contest surfer, and unfortunately I just never had it in me, I just couldn't. It's not that I can competently surf, but I could never do airs or win heats, or just never was part of my repertoire, but coming from the UK now, and I can only speak for the people that I see surfing. there's a couple of young lads who like not even in their 20s, or maybe they are in the young 20s that win heats and charge big waves. And like one lad's a guy called Taz Knight,
right,
who's like lives locally here, and he charges. He's been charging Porto Escondido the last 2 years, and Mavs and Todos, and he can also string a few pretty handy turns together and bust a big air as well. So. That's it's standard. I think it's just like everything evolve. Yeah, that's just the way that surfing's evolving, and I think it's also what a professional surfer needs to do now, because that's what people want to see, don't they? They don't just want to see guys busting airs. They want to see guys charging too.
For sure, yeah. And I was going to ask you about that, because I mean, I think the WSL now have done on the WSL tour. They've done a really good job. Media-wise, commercially, media-wise, you got the people on the desk, professional anchorman with your experts, Strider and Peter Mell and Ross Williams and the other guy, but they've done a really good job of putting a whole package together that is very attractive. You got Strider and Peter Mell in the water as well, interviewing. It's very professional. So the point I was going to make was, what about the big wave surfing? Can you compete with that? Is it going to go that way, do you think?
Well, the thing is, the WSL do that. They did that at the Escondido Challenge, and the good thing about like the big wave surfing, I think, and the events. It's a show, like it's not, it's like car crash, like especially on those big swells, like the really big ones, like it's car crash viewing, and people love that, whether people are making waves.
It doesn't matter whether you make it, if you take off on it.
Or getting cleaned up, or like, it's stuff which like it's really exciting to watch, and you don't have to necessarily, know surfing to appreciate that or appreciate the ocean. Like some people might not actually, like non-surfers, understand the technical like ability of John doing a massive reverse or a huge air or an off the top or a turn in the pocket, because they don't know surfing. Right. But Joe blogs off the street can appreciate someone trying to paddle into a giant wave and falling off because they might have had an experience at the local beach when they were 10 in 1 foot surf.
Yeah.
So do you know what I mean? Like, oh my god, like that guy's trying to do that in that giant wave. That's crazy, which I think captivates people, and people want to see that, And I think that's why sometimes the big wave surfing can have a bigger audience, maybe.
I think it's got a big future. That's why I said pose a question, because I think it's got a big future, and more people are getting into it. And if they package it right, and I think they're going the right way, they're doing a good job. If they continue to package it right and really promote it, I think it's going to be, as you say, like that car crash type video. People are just going to watch it and say, "Wow, that is insane, man!" What are those guys doing? Yeah.
It is the live streaming of the events that people want to see, I suppose, isn't it? Not just like the highlights. People like now want to have, like, when a swell's happening somewhere, they want to see that live, and like you say, like the commentary of the anchorman and the professionalism that the WSL brought to that, that's making it watchable.
Yeah. I mean, you compare it a few years ago, it's just like chalk and cheese. Yeah, I mean, it's great.
Yeah, and that's nothing but a positive thing for surfing. And not just surfing, but everyone who, everything around it. It's going to bring more money into it, or more sponsors, or make everyone more professional, which is, at the end of the day, is what we want.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that you're in the right place at the right time when you're going to go with it. So. Yeah. Like, I couldn't be. It's a really exciting time for me at the minute, and it is, I feel I've started living
living the dream that I really hungered after for so long, and at points it felt like it was, never going to happen. But not that it mattered, it wouldn't have mattered anyway, like as long as I could get to those couple big swells a year, then I'd have always been happy, but having opportunities to work on big wave projects with Red Bull and surf with some of my heroes and actually just be in the sea more is it's amazing, and I feel really fortunate for that.
And being a fellow Brit myself, I think it's wonderful that you are flying the flag for us, and so.
But saying that, it's funny. I think somehow England has got some really, really for a country that doesn't have very big waves. We've got some amazing big wave surfers. Tom Lowe was just competed in the WSL big wave Porto Challenge. And caught a couple of bombs. We got Tom Butler, another guy who's been charging Nazare, charges Mulletmore, and then we've got a few up and comers like Taz Knight, as I just mentioned. So I think for on the big wave scene, we were actually doing
very well. Yeah, I mean
really well. Really well.
When I was in the scene over there, I mean, big wave, we weren't in a big wave at all. It was like nobody was doing it really. There's some guys getting into it, like Gabe Davis and stuff was getting into it towards the end of his
but
later on in his career. But it's like now it seems to have moved to another dimension, and you guys are sort of really doing it as full on. So I think it's great.
Yeah, but not like the guys I just mentioned. They're not just into it; they're actually making waves in the international scene, so that they're good at it.
I've seen a lot of photos recently of popping up, on social media of Tom Lowe and Tom Butler. I think, wow, just the waves are just amazing, So they're huge talents, and it's nuts to see, and especially Lowe getting in. So that must be, I think he must be the first British guy to sort of represent the country on a international level, the highest competition you can get into, which is nuts. And he got in on a wild card, right time, right place. He'd been there for the 3 weeks prior, charging, and he got the recognition he deserved and got into the event. Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's great for Britain as well, So keep charging, man. Keep going for it. So I tell you what I'm going to do for the TOKYOREAL members only. I'm going to call you back in a minute if I can and ask you some success secret questions.
Right.
But only our members can see that. So I'm going to cut you off at this point and then bring you back in a minute for the members, if I may. But Andrew, thank you so much for sharing all your thoughts with us and your experiences. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and our viewers are going to love it. Now, we're going to put all your links up. We're going to promote your movie as much as we can, even try and get you to Japan and to do some motivational speaking if we can at some point.
Yeah, definitely,
And we'll come back to you occasionally and get some updates, maybe some on-the-sofa short videos. So,
sure. Thanks very much for having me. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. So, Andrew Cotton, for the moment, thank you very much, and I'll call you back for Success Secrets.
All right, mate. See you in a bit.
All right, cheers. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers, bye.